Wow, after this great kickoff with Nancy Schiller, it's now time for our next keynote. It's going to be delivered by Bhushan Trivedi, and it's called The Crisis is Catalyst for Social Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Bhushan Trivedi is a practitioner and firm believer in the potential of innovative market-based solutions that address pressing social challenges of today. His social entrepreneurial journey started once in India and Myanmar, and he's now starting a brand new chapter in Bulgaria. Without further ado, Bhushan, the stage is all yours.
Thank you so much, Alex. It's an absolute pleasure to be a part of the wonderful work that you've been doing. And I am very thrilled and excited to be in the social entrepreneurship track. And here's a small keynote which I've prepared, and I would like to share my thoughts with you and your audience. And yeah, let's do it. So, greetings, everyone. I am Bhushan, and first of all, I would like to welcome and thank you all for participating in the social entrepreneurship track. We've witnessed some unprecedented events around the world and in Bulgaria in the last couple of months. Events which were beyond the realm of human imagination, where what has turned out to be our present reality is ineffably stranger than fiction. Who would have thought that one day we would see oil companies offering money to its customer for buying the crude? But this happened, and so did several unforeseen events impacting every stratum of our society and shaking every building block of our economy. As the countries around the world now prepare to set the definition of the new normal, it would be worthwhile to explore the role and potential of social entrepreneurship in that space. It is to not only help shape the new normal, but also to reach out to the most affected group of people who unfortunately are very severely impacted. If there ever was a right time to focus on social businesses, it is now. But there is a particular dichotomy that is present. Despite the pressing need for it, the general awareness levels about social entrepreneurship are quite low. So I thought, let me start by setting the record by sharing my thoughts on the same. While there are many definitions out there, I subscribe to the one which states that social entrepreneurs are changing a dysfunctional equilibrium by challenging status quo, driving disruption at the ecosystem level, and creating purpose driven organizations. We are not talking about an incremental change, but a rather significant leap which is creating real value for all stakeholders. Going by my synthesis of social entrepreneurship, I would say many of our existing established equilibriums on which our society and the economy was resting are completely shaken up and severely impacted. So, what does this mean? Opportunities. I believe the new normal world would see a dramatic shift from catering to the wants and the desires to now focusing on meeting the absolute needs of the people and the society, which, if satisfied, would help create a significant impact. While there are some of the vulnerable groups whose needs can only be met via a philanthropic approach, there are plenty of others whose needs and problems can be solved by innovative products and solutions. Again, I'm speaking on the lines of solving a problem or creating value, which is not far away from defining entrepreneurship. But the social aspect in this box, in my opinion, is added to it when we are focusing on a definite need of a target group. And my assessment tells me there would be plenty of opportunities to do so in the post COVID world. I guess the real question now, which must be asked by aspiring social entrepreneurs, is whether they can genuinely create products and services which are solving a real problem or meeting a pressing need, and at the same time are within the ability and willingness to pay off their target group. The last bit on offering your solution at a price point that is affordable by your target audience with sufficient incentives for yourself and everyone in the value chain would be the most challenging part of the puzzle to solve. But I am sure the genuinely determined and motivated social entrepreneurs would be able to win this successfully. However, we cannot only rely upon them to spin some magic in pioneering this much needed impact. I call upon other stakeholders from the entrepreneurial ecosystem to take an active lead in nurturing social entrepreneurs and be empathetic to their specific needs. By this, I mean legislative support and state policies for conducive environment which would give rise to social innovation to occur. At the same time, we need an empathetic understanding and revision of return expectations from the angels and VCs. And lastly, we need cross partnerships and collaborations to maximize the benefits which we are all trying to achieve. Some of you may think I'm probably asking too much, but please be rest assured, I'm expecting the bare minimum we need to address the most of the existing and the new social problems that we will face very shortly. I remain positive, but only on the premise that now we will all collectively stand together and believe in ourselves more than ever before. We would harness the human ingenuity in a way we never did before. We would focus on real innovation powered by empathy and a strong desire to create an impact because we need it. The world needs it. Thank you for the privilege of your time and your attention.
Bhushan, thank you so much for this inspiring kickoff of your sessions. People didn't have enough time to respond with questions, but I do have one. Can you briefly share the story of your latest endeavor back in India?
Thanks for the question, Alex. So in India, I used to run a social enterprise called Picot Energy, and we were facilitating access to solar energy light and mobile charging solutions to communities who were living off grid and who have never seen electricity in their lives. So we're talking about low income households living in urban slums or isolated villages where there is no grid connection. And these households are having a monthly average income of about 150 leva or something, and they're spending up to 25% of that money on kerosene for 1 hour of lighting, which is super expensive. It's totally unsafe, and it creates a very non-productive environment in your home. So I helped change that situation by designing a solar lighting solution specifically for these households, which gave them clean LED lighting for literally the whole night. And just to have a comparison, they spent about 450 leva on kerosene over 3 years, and my product was about 65 leva only, which had it's solar, so it practically can go on for 10 years. It saved them a lot of money, gave them a clean, productive environment to live in, just through access of electricity, just through one light bulb, Alex, which we take for so much granted. It can literally change someone's life, even one bulb. And that was my experience in India, and in the same domain, but slightly different in Myanmar.
Mm. Right, because the whole day is running under the motto sustainable social innovation, and we want to talk a bit more about purpose-driven businesses, but with business model behind them. Can you briefly share whether there was a real business model behind your latest venture?
Absolutely. So our business model, our revenue stream comes from the sale of these solar lights, and we had about 40% margin in these lights, and that's what I mean, Alex. The in my keynote, if you remember, I said that we have to come out with products and services, but also have sufficient incentives for ourselves and everyone in the value chain. And that's going to be an incredibly difficult task. It took me 3 years to get there, from the first MVP design to product optimization, cost optimization, performance enhancements, and things like that. So, all of these parameters are linked to each other, and many times they are either directly proportional or inversely proportional. So if you make the system more performance driven, then there is also a cost increase. So the challenge really is on how to increase the overall efficiency and things like that. So it takes time. It takes time. You need to be persistent, and you need to be ready to walk that stretch, and that stretch is going to be long. So it's a challenging task, but slowly you'll get there to have a product which is affordable and or a service which is affordable for your target group, also creating a good impact. And because of the time that you've spent on this, you are now an expert in this, so you know where to cut down the costs and maximize the value for your target group. It happens over time.
Right. We have two questions now from the audience. The one is from William Stevens. He says, unfair question, but still, what is your measurable objective in 2 or 3 years?
Measurable objective in 2 or 3 years. So Williams, thanks for the question, firstly. I am not exactly sure in which context are you asking me. So do you wanna just be a bit more clear, and as in as an individual or a company, or what exactly do you mean?
I guess as social entrepreneur, I think that's once you start a business, like in the social domain, what would be your measurable objective in 2 or 3 years? Because
Right, okay.
at least that's how I
Right.
understand it.
Right. I
As a
think
company, yeah, he says, as a company.
as a company. Thanks for the clarification, William. See, it really depends on your work and the sector that you're in. For example, when I started Picot Energy back in India, there were in the country of 1.3 billion people. When I started my work, there were more than 300 million people living without electricity, and there were only a handful of social enterprises like me who were delivering energy access. And I can literally count them on my fingertips. There were just 5 or 6, and the main ones. So there was a lack of existing knowledge and know-how which could be transferred to someone as young as me or as inexperienced as me. So if you are venturing out in the seas which are unexplored and no one knows about things, you don't know about the product, you don't know about the market, you don't know many things about that, or you are yourself a knowledge creator, it will take you probably more than in 2 or 3 years. You will just probably spend time understanding your customer well and doing several iterations of your products and services. Don't expect to scale up the product significantly. For example, in the case of microfinance, which is also a very proven business model in terms of creating a social impact through microloans, it is so standardized that there are literally your systems and processes can fit in a flash drive, and you just need to follow them and start scaling or replicating things anywhere in the world with a bit of context and the local cultural nuances in your overall design. But with things which are not done before and which you are probably one of the early movers, I think in 2 or 3 years you should definitely understand your customer profile, their needs, their ability to pay, their willingness to pay, and at the same time really have a good command over your product. I think that would be a realistic expectation, in my opinion. I hope that answers your question, William. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. At least for me. I hope for William too. Sorry for giving the answer instead of you, William. We have one lesson. I'll ask you for a very brief answer because I know you have to prepare for the next session that you're leading. The question is coming from Irina. Would you recommend social entrepreneurs to focus more on leveraging available technologies in the development of their solutions?
Absolutely. Thanks for the question, Irina. And as you know, I ended my keynote with saying that we need more of these cross-border partnerships. Which if in like the solutions that we need right now are not going to be isolated. So if you're working on a hardware product, there would be an element of software involved as well. So we would need all of this coming together. We need very innovative forms of partnerships with a common goal to solve a problem with a collective vision. But if you have meaningful cross-border partnerships or cross-domain partnerships, your solution is just going to be more effective, will come out more quicker, and create a much bigger impact in the world out there. So thanks again for the question, and I hope that answers it.
Okay, well, thank you, Bhushan. I can't wait to hear your panel discussion that will be starting at sharp 11 o'clock. And in the meantime, you can prepare a bit for the audience. You can ask your questions and think of questions on social entrepreneurship and innovation. And see you again at 11.